guys, it's Izzy and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is almost the start of a new month and that means it is time to pick our TBR for June. I haven't done any of these videos the whole of the year, so I'm excited to get back to my TBR jar and to picking a reading list for the month. This is my TBR jar. I just went through it and took out any titles of books that I've already read, so it is fresh. I do need to at some point top it up with any titles I might have got over Christmas, even though I don't think I actually got that many books, so that's not that much of a problem. Before we begin picking the prompts from the jar, I thought I'd just run you through books that I have on my mind for June already, because I have some library books out. I have some reservations that should be coming into the library for me at some point during this month, and I have a book that I have on my mind that I do want to read this month. So I thought we'd go over those. So they're not technically the TBR jar TBR, but just so you guys know what's kind of on my mind for June already, and then I'll pick 4 books from the TBR jar. So obviously that's going to be a bit of an ambitious TBR if we read all of the books, but I like variety. I'm a bit of a mood reader, and I've also recently realised that I'm not that inspired by a lot of the books on my TBR, and I want to read them. I don't want to have books on my shelves that I'm not interested in reading, that I'm not going to pick up. I think sometimes when it is picked from the jar and therefore forcing me to think about it, it might be that encouragement I need to actually finally pick it up. So quickly, let's just go through and talk about the books that I already have on my mind. So first book, and I think the next book that I'm going to pick up, is Frenchman's Creek by Daphne du Maurier. This book my granny lended to me almost a year ago. She thought I'd really like it, and so I just thought about this today and I thought I really need to read this because I need to get it back to her. I don't want to be the type of person that is given a book and then never returns it. So this is going to be the first book I pick up, I think. I'll read you the blurb because I don't know any more about it than you do. Lady Donna St. Colombe is a byword even at the raffish restoration court, ripe for any folly, any outrage that will spice the futile tedium of her days, while another secret Donna yearns for a life that is infinite love and danger and sweetness. It is this Donna who flees the stews of London for remote Navron, seeking peace of mind in its solitary woods and hidden creeks, and finds the boundless passion her spirit craves, daring to love the pirate hunted by all Cornwall, a Frenchman with a soul as unfettered as her own, a man who gambles his life against a moment's joy. And as the net closes, Donna must make the anguished choice that is no choice at all. Sounds like a romance between a socialite, a high society woman, and a pirate. This author is the author of Rebecca. I got this book out and I thought I recognised the name because I'm starting to tread my toes. I'm starting to tread into the world of classics, modern classics, and obviously I think Rebecca counts as a modern classic, I think it would be, and I have heard of that book. It's kind of loosely on my horizon. So this is the same author, so hopefully it's good. My granny thought I'd love it, so this is the first book on my plate. The next 2 are library books that I've picked up. So the first one is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I did not realise that this book would be so thin. I read 1984 and that's your classic, maybe 300 pages. So this book being only over 100 pages was really shocking. I think this book is a commentary on socialism or communism. It's all about the animals on a farm decide to overthrow the owner, liberate themselves, but then a sort of new elite forms, which sounds like a commentary on socialism to me. I enjoyed 1984, I found it very interesting, so I'm excited to read another one, hopefully another eye-opening, thought-provoking book, and it's so thin. I'm excited to just whiz my way through that. The next book is City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series. I did pick it up from the library in maybe December. I was going to try and read it before I left, and I started it, probably got about 50 pages in, and from all of the whirlwind of Christmas and getting ready to go travelling, I didn't manage to finish it. So I'm glad to pick it up straight away. I have this video in the works. Who knows when it's ever going to actually be released, but it's me reading the first 3 books of the Mortal Instruments series. So I read City of Bones, which was already a reread because I had read it before, with the intention of being able to just bash out City of Ashes and City of Glass, I think, is the 3rd book. But I ended up just doing the reread kind of for nothing, and then I wasn't able to get to the 2nd or 3rd book. But I do have enough of a recollection of City of Bones to jump straight into this book. I'm not going to bother with a 3rd reread of City of Bones because that would be a bit much. I am excited to get into this one. I found City of Bones to be nothing special. It was fine, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't particularly interesting. But everyone raves about the Mortal Instruments series. I'm a big fan of the Infernal Devices. I read that a few years ago. I want to reread the Infernal Devices. That is why I'm picking up the Mortal Instruments. I want to read the whole universe in the correct reading order. So I want to see what the hype is about. I know people absolutely love it, so I really want to understand the hype. The first book isn't giving me any more of an idea as to why, so I'm excited to get deeper into the series. So that is my next read. And then I have 2 books on the way from the library, and that is The Mistake and The Score by Elle Kennedy. I reserved them as soon as I got home. The last book I read was The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and I watched Off Campus, and now I just really want to read specifically The Score. All I care about right now is Dean and Ali. I loved them in the show. As soon as they came in, I kind of forgot about Garrett and Hannah, and I just want to read about Dean and Ali. But I know that there's Logan's book first, Logan and Grace, I think it is. So I need to get through The Mistake so I can start reading The Score, and I'll probably make my way through the whole series of Off Campus. I think there's 5 books if I enjoy it. So yeah, that is where we're standing with books that I already have on my radar for June. Without further ado, let's get into the TBR jar. So for those of you who haven't watched my videos before, this has a combination of titles, all of the titles on my TBR, and prompts for books that I would get the creative liberty of choosing. So we'll give it a mix. I'm going to pick 4 books. Let's see what we get. You can look first. Never mind. I've already seen what it is. Twilight. I don't want to read Twilight. Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I was actually thinking about the possibility of picking The Secret History and what I would do, because that's a very autumnal book, and I decided I'd just sort of have to read it. So I think I'm going to have to do the same with this, because obviously it's a very autumnal book, but if I'm quite honest with you, I'm not really much of a seasonal reader anyway. I sort of read the books I want to read. So I think maybe the fact that I was putting this off to autumn but never picking it up in autumn was just a sign I wasn't ever going to pick it up. This obviously about a girl who falls in love with a vampire. When Isabella Swans moves to the gloomy town of Forks and meets the mysterious, alluring Edward Cullen, her life takes a thrilling and terrifying turn. With his porcelain skin, golden eyes, mesmerising voice and supernatural gifts, Edward is both irresistible and impenetrable. Up until now, he has managed to keep his true identity hidden, but Bella is determined to uncover his dark secret. What Bella doesn't realise is that the closer she gets to him, the more she's putting herself and those around her at risk, and it might be too late to turn back. Well, okay. First book is Twilight. I've watched the movies, I really enjoyed them at the time, and then have never gone near it again. And the only thing I know about the books is I remember watching someone's reading vlog or someone's review of it, and this was probably years ago, and them just saying that Edward is really strange in it. The comments he makes is kind of a predatory. I don't know if that's true or not, I haven't read it. I've definitely started it at some point. Well, I should read this because I was given the first and the second book. Maybe this is my sign to pick up Twilight. I like how I pick from the jar to push me out of my comfort zone, and then I'm like very non-committal about if I'll actually read it. I'm like, we'll see. Second book, let's go. I'm trying not to look this time. I just wanted to. I can actually see it. I can see it through the writing. See it through the paper. We Hunt the Flame. This is interesting. I get this one by Hafsa Faisal. This is funny that I picked this book because I'm listening to an audiobook by Hafsa Faisal at the minute, A Tempest of Tea. And I was thinking about how I've had this book on my TBR for literally years. I don't know anything about this either. I know that I put this on my birthday list at one point because I'd seen it all over TikTok, Book Talk, like 2021. Let's find out what this book is about. Zafira is the hunter, forced to disguise herself as a man. She risks everything to provide for her people. Nasir is the Prince of Death, a feared assassin who is forever bound to the command of his father, the Sultan. Both are legends in their kingdom, but neither wants to be. And when Zafira embarks on a dangerous quest to return magic to their suffering land, Nasir is sent on a similar mission. But as their journey unfolds, an ancient evil begins to stir. This, I'm sure I will love. Fantasy. I love a good fantasy book. I love a good fantasy series. The only thing I am thinking is that these are both the starts of series. I don't know how many. I know that there's obviously a second book, We Free the Stars. This is obviously like 4 books, and this is, I hope, only 2. If this is only 2 books, that's fine. I can read a duology, that's fine. I just don't want to commit to more series because I'm already in the middle of one series. I'm in the middle of the off-campus series. I'm reading the Lady of Darkness series right now. I'm like taking a momentary break from that, but I'm very much intending to go back. You know, that's 4 series immediately, so I don't want to start too many. But if We Hunt the Flame is a duology, then that's fine. I won't complain. I just don't want to be getting into too many series because I'm quite a binge series reader. Like, once I start reading a series, it's kind of all I want to read. I like to read it all in one so I actually remember the details and the information of what is happening. I fear I'm coming off very complainy. That is not what I'm intending to be like. I'm just running you through my inner monologue right now. On to the 4th book. No, the 3rd pick. I hope we get a prompt. The prompts are more fun. I want some creative liberty on this. That's the right way up for you. I was looking at this as I was going through it earlier, a book with bad reviews. This is so funny. I was literally looking at this prompt and considering what I would pick. How dedicated am I to this? Because I feel like bad reviews, I'm just going to have to go with like bad rating. Okay, I'm going to be dedicated and I'm going to go on Fable and I'm going to look up all these books and I'm going to take out the ones that have the lowest rating. If there isn't a decided winner. I'll be back. Alright, I hope you're all impressed because that was commitment there. I wrote down all of the ratings of every book, and to be quite honest with you, a lot of the books on my TBR are fairly highly rated, kind of 4 stars and above. The lowest rating was 3.25, and there are 2 books with that rating to decide between. Interestingly enough, the book that I thought was going to be lowest rated wasn't the lowest rated, so that was interesting. And the 2 books we have are No Time to Wave Goodbye by Ben Wicks and Bombs on Aunt Dainty by Judith Kerr. Both are war books. One is a true story, one is a kid's book. I don't know if this is the second book in a series that I read when I was younger and I got rid of. When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit, I read when I was younger, like considerably younger, like 10. This is what happened after When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit. I don't have that book anymore, I got rid of it. I was obviously under the impression that this was sort of a little bit older. I'm gonna have to look up if you can read this without reading When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit because I don't know what happened in that book, I can't remember now. I'm okay reading children's book, not children's book, but you know, I don't care if it's not in my age range, the books I'm reading. But I'm also not gonna just subject myself to books that have been on my TBR since I was obviously like a child, just to get them off my TBR. Okay, I looked it up, and you don't have to have read When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit. It is just focusing on the same character later on. So that does mean this is a children's book. But I think for that reason I'm going to pick this book, just because if it is good, then I've read a good book, and if it's not, then I'm getting a children's book off my TBR that I'm not gonna read. Does that make sense? I don't know if that kind of seems like a bit of a easy guess out of a book. That is just logical in my brain. So I will tell you what this book is actually about now. It is hard enough being a teenager in London during the Blitz, finding yourself in love and wondering every night whether you will survive the bombs. But it is even harder for Anna, who is still officially classified as an enemy alien. Those bombs are coming from Germany, the country that was once her own. If Hitler invades, can she and her beloved refugee family possibly survive? So it sounds like a good book. Definitely my cup of tea, just hopefully not too childish. And I will put back No Time to Wave Goodbye. This book is, funnily enough, about evacuees, so not quite the same as the refugees, but similar. It would definitely be interesting to read at some point, but not from that prompt. And the rating of this book was 3.25, so not really low. I mean, that being said, I think there was probably about 3 reviews on this book, which makes sense if it's a children's book, because the children aren't writing the reviews. Okay, for our last and final pick, hopefully another prompt. I do like the prompts. Code Breaking Sisters. We are obviously getting through my history books right now. This was actually quite highly rated. Well, 4 stars. Code Breaking Sisters, Our Secret War by Patricia and Jean Outram. It looks like a true story, considering there are real photographs. Let's read the blurb. 2 sisters, 1 war, and an extraordinary family secret. 1939. In the nation's hour of need, brave sisters Patricia and Jean Outram answered the call of duty. With their fierce intelligence and steely determination, these remarkable young women would stop at nothing to help crack the Enigma code, support Allied troops, and defeat the Nazis. Their top secret mission would finally see the tide of war turn in Britain's favour. This is their incredible true story. Doesn't that sound amazing? I love finding out and learning about incredible women, especially in World War II, because if you haven't heard me say before, the Second World War is one of my historic interests. I love learning about the Second World War. This is a bit of a unique TBR, not your typical TBR. Well, half of the books, 50% of these books you've heard about. 50% you might not. To be honest, this is a full 100% books that I probably wouldn't have ever picked up by myself, with the exception of maybe We Hunt the Flame. This has been on my radar because I know it's a popular book talk book, so I probably would have picked that up at some point. The other 3 I probably would have kept putting off, potentially forever. So the TBR jar did its job in getting me to pick books that I wouldn't typically pick up. That being said, I have realised that my TBR, like my physical TBR, probably isn't filled with the most current popular books, or like the books you hear about from Book Talk, other than maybe the fantasy section on my TBR. They're kind of your popular Book Talk books. That is the end of my TBR video. To recap, we have Twilight by Stephanie Meyer, We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal, Bombs on Aunt Dainty by Judith Kerr, and Code Breaking Sisters by Jean and Patricia Outram. And then adding the other 3 books to the pile, plus The Mistake and The Score by Elle Kennedy. And this is our TBR for June. That's a big one. How many books is that? That will be 9 books. I've never read that many books in a month. I'm a slow reader. But maybe, who knows? Who knows? Hopefully you will see me read some of these books over the next month. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what books are on your June TBR. A bit of a rogue one this month. I will need to update this jar. I also think I want to add some new prompts to it, because I was going through them and there are other prompts I want to add. I will see you in my next one. Bye guys!